Hey, this is Philip from Steve's Motor Co, and on today's episode, we're going to be showing you how to restore the faded paint on your classic Mini. I'll be the first to admit we know nothing about restoring paint, so anytime at the shop that we need to do a job like this, we bring in our friend Kelly, who's an expert.
What's up, guys? Today we're going to be restoring this Mini. So, where were we? Alright, so basically we've given the car a bath, we've taken it back so we can actually see what we're working with. The car has been covered with a tarp for a long time in the wind from the looks of it because it's got some abrasion. The paint's actually blistered here. Japanese sun's pretty nasty, so it cuts into things, and that combined with the acid rain can be pretty ugly. We're gonna try to knock this back first and just sort of see what we get. Try to do a test area first. And of course, I think I'm gonna just run around and tape things off because you're gonna have masking tape anyway, usually as a detailer, to cover all your handles and all your fine trims and stuff like that. So with the tape, I'm just kind of gonna go around while I'm masking and just say, hey, here's a spot that I kind of want to pay attention to, or there's a big scratch here that I've sort of seen in the light.
So you're not covering stuff that you want to avoid, you're covering stuff that you want to hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like basically the entire surface will get a hit, but it's how much you want to hit it.
Yeah.
With the blistered paint here, you got to be pretty careful because there's no layer of clear. So you're basically working with patina at this point. So you kind of got to be artistic with your application. I try to make sure that people I do stuff for understand that it's not a respray, but resprays tend to be uglier than something with a little character. And so, try to save it. Taping too, like around trims like this, because it's sort of a soft rubber and it's an older car, you do want to preserve your, whatever rubbers you can, especially because it's already done a bunch of years in, rubber hell, as in the Japanese sun. As you can see, my taping skills are on point. If you've got the dexterity of a 5-year-old, you can do this quicker than me. There we go. And I'm gonna work my way around this mirror too, just because it's looking pretty brittle, and I don't want to chisel.
A giant chunk's gonna come out if you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna end up chiseling a chunk out of it and being real sorry. So. And I mean, the whole idea to this, at least for me, and probably the reason I'm a giant guy doing such ridiculous labor, is that, well, first of all, I really like it, but also it's sort of like, it's therapeutic. Like, don't be in a rush, because then it kind of lets you do a good job. Like, if you got to do that panel the next day or next week, it's better than trying to blast through it and like catching something and potentially wrecking a part or something like that.
Yeah, the whole process is ruined by doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's meant to be sort of a keep it fun. Like, it's a good hobby to have, but it's not all about what you buy. It's not all about the products. Like, I know those guys out there like Ammo and stuff like that. They're really good at what they do. It's super meticulous. Like, I have great respect for them, but at the same time, you don't necessarily need to go that hard and that far.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the expensive polisher from Roops. You don't have to have all of the chemical guys stuff. You really don't need a lot of material that way. Yeah.
Yeah, much like anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when it just becomes a competition how much you can spend, like with supercars, I feel like that's why they're boring. Is because no one really gets to put their character in it. They're just picking things off of shelves mostly. Not to say I wouldn't own one, so please.
Anyone out there owns a Lamborghini?
Yeah, you just let me know. Yeah, so usually I just take these around the edges too. Here, I'm trying to get out of the light so we can see. And you can even use your thumbnail if you're really that concerned, but I try to leave a bit of a lip because you don't really need to polish underneath it. So like, I wouldn't stress too much getting it in there because you run a chance of burning the paint and potentially even burning through the tape and hitting what you've tried to protect.
Yeah, because obviously the edge of your polisher is moving the fastest.
Exactly.
And could be like an angle grinder getting in there.
Yeah, I think with the polisher too, like everything's kind of heat based. It's really nice to sort of have that nice temperate, like 20 degrees kind of thing, where the paint never gets too hot. Because if your paint's hot, you'll find that actually if you apply your polish directly to the paint, as well as priming your pad, you'll get little marks from where you've left the polish, just because it's soaked in and baked so fast that it's kind of left almost like a wax effect in there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you feel the panel as you go along to check the temperature?
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm old and lazy, I guess. Like maybe I've just done it for long enough that I feel.
Yeah,
like
you kind of know
comfortable
where
with
you're
it.
at. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've done enough of the minis. Like they've got some pretty nice thick steel. The thinner the material, basically, the quicker it's going to heat up and the quicker you're going to burn through.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily just the paint, because it's sort of like welding, where that heat distribution is a big thing.
Yeah. I thought about that.
Yeah, gonna kind of go around the bib, well, or the lack of. Richard, why don't you have a fuel bib? What's all this about?
Yeah.
So I'll probably take just the corners on this, because those are gonna see the most heat.
Yeah, I haven't heard detailers talking about heat so much before.
Yeah,
So that's an interesting. I never thought about that. The heat of when you're polishing something.
yeah, it's
You should just think of the abrasiveness, but not the temperature. To
exactly.
Go on with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of basically heat speeds processes up, right?
Cool.
Yeah, so on a hot day, if you know how to work a polisher well, you can make quick work of things. And then a lot of people use random orbit polishers. There's nothing really wrong with them. In my mind, they work slower. You get similar results, but I find that the cutting power of the direct drive rotary kind of just gives you all the oomph you need. And being like a kind of a big heavy guy, it's like, oh, I might as well put that to use.
Yeah.
Are there downsides to using a rotary?
Yeah, for sure. Your chances of causing problems are increased twofold if you don't know how to handle it, because it's not necessarily vibrating in place, but creating like little micro movements. It's just a straight circular drive, so like it's a lot easier to catch an edge on something and refat it. License plates are super notorious. Be wary of those because you can cut yourself pretty good on them. But the rotary has its huge advantage, of course, in speed. So if you're looking to do it as a hobby or a hobby business, kind of like what I do, speed is nice because you can definitely get the results quick.
Nice.
And it's nice to be able to give something back to someone the same day. And I know guys who will take 3 days and it's gorgeous, but I do feel like speed is of the essence, as is with most things. Like people want instant gratification, right?
Yeah, so if someone's doing this themselves, what's the best time of year or sort of temperature or whatnot so they have the most probability of success?
I talk a lot about the heat, but when it's really cold, don't do it because wax just doesn't behave properly. You want it to be at least 10 degrees ambient when you're working.
Okay.
I would say like preferably nearer to 20, but you can get away with 10. Yeah, and like humidity, again, not really an issue unless it's really, really damp. Inside your shop, but hopefully if it's like this, you're doing it inside.
Yeah.
Because it's hosing rain out.
Yeah.
What is this stuff in the sriracha bottle?
So basically this is a product called Dukan Fast Gloss, mixed with a little bit of, I think it's a company called Granodize C10. It was something I had in my stash and it had a nice texture to it. It gives enough cut that it's helpful, but I don't have to necessarily, like there's only a dash of it in it, sort of like grandma's soup. You want to sort of pick your spot between grittiness and smoothness.
Yeah. Richard, are you pumped?
Oh yeah, this is gonna be amazing.
I can see your glee.
Always gleeful. we're about a third the way done as far as stages go. Time-wise, I'd say we're more like half done. Second stage is just going to be a cut with a foam pad to kind of smooth things out and take any of the bigger scratches out, because basically we want to get it more smooth even, so that when you've got it out in the sunlight and you get that reflection, you're not going to get the spider marks that would normally emanate out from those abrasions. So yeah, and then the wax will just fill any other small imperfections, but there's a common misperception with wax that it's a polish. A polish removes material, and a wax just wax is more like, think of it as a grease. It's obviously got protective properties that will help things, and it's definitely important, but yeah, it doesn't really do any of the work as far as bringing back the luster goes. You kind of have to lay that foundation first. It's not necessarily so important to have a bright ambient light. As you can see in here, it's not super bright. We've got a lot of lights spotted on the car. It's nice to have that contrast, because you can, if you're looking sort of at a 45 across you in the paint and then back up into the light, you're going to get a nice refraction to kind of see if there's any spider marks or if there's any sort of fine details you're missing. So if you can sort of focus that light as you're working, and every pass you make, you're pulling back and checking to see how you're going, because things can change in an instant. So you want to make sure you're not going through anything, but you're still, not wasting your time on it if you need to go heavier. So we finished our first pass with the heavy cut, and we're going to switch to a foam pad to basically take out all these little scratches you're still seeing littered around here, because you're not really going to get a fine enough cut to actually go any further with this. You'd just be removing paint for no reason. So I'm dusting it off right now, because given the nature of the finer cutting, it's just like sandpaper, where the finer the sandpaper it is, the easier it clogs up. So we're just taking all this dust off so we can hit it down, and that pad's gonna last a little longer and waste less time. If you have compressed air, don't be stupid like me. Yeah. So I usually take the speed down for this, but we've been going pretty slow already. Let's see what happens. And this pad's even more splattery. Or even just, yeah, that's perfect. Just to get a little more reflection here in a little bit. I guess we just saw the light inside.
And what do you think after seeing how it comes out after this pass?
I'm not necessarily stoked on the way that pad's doing the job. So I'm going to try this green pad here and see if we can kind of get a better finish out of it, because I've been using that pad a lot, and there might be some finer grit that's in it, like contamination, that's just kind of causing it to not come out as lustrous as we'd all like.
There's one thing I like. Lustrousness.
Yeah, I mean, I should...
Lustrosity?
Lustrosity? Yeah, no, I don't know. It's, yeah. As long as it doesn't say luxury on it, I'm down. Just laying the wax on. This is the final, well, almost final stage. The final stage will be buffing it off, which is always an enjoyable procedure. No sarcasm, sorry. It's looking really good. All the big scratches, all the major defects in the paint have been taken down to like, a tolerable level. The car looks pretty good for its age and what it's been through, I think.
Well, I like this stage because once you put on the wax, it pretty much makes it look like it did before. Like right now with all the swirls and stuff, this is pretty much how the paint looked before we did all the process. And now, once he comes over with the buffing wheel and takes it off, it's gonna be like, you'll be able to immediately see the transformation. Love that.
Now that we laid the wax down and it's drying, during this time's a good time to lay down your tire shine if you're gonna do anything like that. I'm just gonna nail these trims because they're looking a little bit tired, and at least make it, kind of pop against the shiny paint. Now's a good time because if you get overspray, it's gonna buff out with the rest of it. So it's kind of a time-saving measure. You don't have to be like, oh, my perfect paint, now I gotta buff that out. And it also kind of, if there's any nasty crap in here, it usually will protect it or at least dilute it enough that you're not gonna see any issues. So I'm just gonna use a brush to kind of work it in here. I'm just gonna spray it on pretty liberally. and just kind of work it into there with the brush. So it's kind of just getting in all the little keyholes that we have. There's sort of recesses for the rivets. Man, this stuff smells good. That is another bonus of using Tire Shine. Usually smells like a food product, so maybe not near the dog or kids. Delicious. Yeah, absolutely. Especially the kids who have ridiculous names given to them by their parents, you know. I'm basically just buffing off the sort of like hogging down material, so to speak. So like buffing off in a rough pass all of the wax and kind of just tidying up any of the in the gutters and stuff here with sort of a rag that I'm not necessarily too worried about giving me the final result. It's a bit damp, which is okay because it can help lift any of the wax that's dried a bit too much. Kind of just going around and doing a visual inspection on your work, because chances are you'll have missed something, especially on a car like this. Even though it's small, there's a lot of facets, so there's a lot of small bits that are kind of isolated that you gotta keep in mind. The goal of this final step where we're kind of buffing everything off, like to me at least, a good detail is looking like no one's actually been there. You know what I mean? Like, so if there's like residue and leftover overspray from your polisher or whatever, like stuff that's product that's been flung around, not only does it kind of look sloppy and not cleaned up, but it just kind of alludes to the fact that it's been detailed, and then people start looking for more problems. So especially if you're looking to sell your car or whatever, probably a good idea to just take that extra time and really tidy it up, because you'll feel better about the job in the end too.